Welcome, everyone, to the first ever episode of Tack Talks Football. My name is Jason, alongside my father, John, and my brother, Jeremy. We'll give you a little brief background of each one of us, just some of our accolades or some of our experience with the game of soccer here in the States. Um, I have played for about 35 to 36 years on various teams, regional teams to national pools. I have about 23 to 25 years of experience coaching pretty high level athletes, ultimately college bound athletes to perform at their college of choice, hopefully. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't work out, but we're still, that's our ultimate goal as a coach. Um, Dad, any, want to give a little background?
Yeah, sure. So 50 years of everything from being a fan to a coach to a player, college level, really good club team level. Brought a minor league soccer team to Dayton back in 2000, Dayton Gemini from USL Premier Development League. Really successful first year, but a great experience overall. Again, coaching, NSCAA, National Youth License. So our experience is pretty broad, and most importantly, we're just fans, players, and love the game. Over to you, Jeremy.
Same thing. So about 30 plus years of playing experience. Been coaching for about 15 years or so. College bound athletes, all the way down to U10. Still a current coach. Don't play as much anymore. Not as fit as I used to be, but played college club. Played club soccer in the local clubs around here. And that's about all it is for me.
Well, thank you guys very much for that. Dad, did you have a comment before we
Yeah,
get
no,
started?
we're gonna just start right in. We'll probably cover 3 topics or so today. I'll kind of be the gatekeeper and keep us moving along. And so let's get right into it. So the first topic we're going to address is providing our opinions of where we think youth soccer is today in the USA. And I'll start with Jason. What do you think?
Well, so you could go this a couple different directions. I think at the very young ages, the academy ages, we'll call up to about, we'll say 12 or 13. That's going to be the biggest development time for the children. Whether they excel past that, that's kind of where it becomes their own battle. But those first years, high level coaches and just the right mindset of a soccer player is where the development really occurs. When you start getting into that 12 to 13, 14 range, you're dealing with some, you know, teenagers at that point. So the attitudes are a little different than what they would be at the younger age or maybe even the older age. But still very, very good kids, very, very excited kids if you make the sessions fun for them. But I think that is where the most important development of youth soccer at this time starts. Now to the negative, I'm not sure that we do a good enough job throughout the country to develop these players.
Let me
I
ask you,
do.
Jason, let me interrupt.
Yeah.
In what way do you mean?
So I think a lot of the focus is still win, win, win. Um, and that's not a bad thing because we always want a competitive environment for even the youth. But the problem is do we have a high enough level coaches at the youth ages all across the country to develop these players into the next generation of national team players? And I would say in some cases, in some parts of the country, absolutely. But in the smaller clubs, you still have very, very talented players where even you have parent coaches that don't want to let these talented players go elsewhere throughout the country or throughout other teams because they don't want their team to lose games. And I think that's where we have to start looking at how do you do it? I'm not really sure, but we have to get it in the mindsets of these parents and players, or excuse me, parents and coaches that we want what is best for the kids. Even if we do lose teams because of these kids, we have to start developing something to allow our national teams in the future to become better. I don't think our national team right now is bad, but I do think we're missing out on a lot of players, and I think it starts with the development at the youth ages.
So, Jeremy, do you have an alternate opinion?
Well, I'm going to take it from a more general aspect of it. So we have how many different leagues in this country at a youth level? So you're going to see talent spread everywhere. We have, the academies, we have the MLS Next, we have the National League, we have NAL, Elite Academy League. I mean, it's just spread all across. And I think that's where the talent is being missed because where do the college coaches go? Where do these talent scouts go from these different clubs? They're already probably spread so thin as it is. Where do you go? And I think that to take it even further, it's confusing players and parents alike. What is the best league for my child? What is the best league that's going to get my son or daughter up to the next level, whether that's professional or college? And quite frankly, I don't know the right answer anymore. It's becoming so confusing. There's a new league that pops up every year, and I think it's becoming a little frustrating for the parents as well.
Well, it's not, to stop you right there for a second. This is the difference between the U.S. youth system and the academy system overseas. Typically, overseas, you're going to find players that are in residential academies for the most part, the better players, I should say. And so they're developing from, if one's identified at 10 years old, from 10 to whenever they feel that they could perhaps play on the academy team. Here, we are banking on getting recognized by a handful of coaches that say that player is worth looking at. And I don't know that we have the manpower, we'll say, in the academies or even in the U.S. national team system that can identify players in smaller clubs. They can only go somewhere if there's a bunch of teams playing in one location. They have their own teams to worry about, and so we're missing out on these players because there's so many different clubs that nobody can get looked at. I mean, there's just no possible way for these coaches or these scouts, will say, to go find all these players. And I'm going to even go that route towards college. I think college coaches miss out on a lot of players because they're going by word of mouth of all the coaches because there's so many teams to see. It's impossible to see the best players in the country.
Well,
we are doing it by name, we are doing it by club, and we are doing it by word of mouth.
Yeah, so let me
interject. That is not
here.
going to get us any farther with the national team.
Right, but let me interject here. So one of the things that I've seen over the 50 years is the transition of those of us that were just learning to play the game when soccer started to become bigger in the United States. And we were the ones that really defined how a lot of this youth system was going to go, because those of us that ended up being, I'll say, pretty good club players ended up being coaches. And now we were transitioning a lot of that talent, just as I did to you guys, you and your brother. We were getting people on the pitch that understood the game better than just a parent coach. The problem is that you couldn't find a way, because of the saturated club system throughout Dayton, that you could get people to let players go that needed to be moved up to an elevated league. And so we would sit there and compete against each other. They wouldn't form any kind of camaraderie with members of one team to another. It was all about, we're just going to beat you, right? It was all about beating you. It didn't matter what kind of soccer, what kind of style the teams were playing, who was training the players to see if they could actually develop them more or just turn them into hacks, which is what happened during our original club experience from you guys at the youth level. But then it started to advance, and it's advanced now. And as Jason, you brought up, these college coaches, it's very difficult for them to see all of these elite players. And I think it starts because the youth level coaches aren't in agreement that these players ought to be recognized by the higher level coaches, whether it be college or MLS Next or the next level up. That player needs to get there because they won't let him go. I'll turn it back to you, Jeremy. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's going to have their own opinion, and I will say, on a positive side, there is way more opportunity now than there was then. Um, with that being said, soccer is gaining popularity. We have more players than we've ever had. Soccer is going the right route. However, it seems that even at the highest level at this point, they don't know what they want to do either. We're having to go through another age change process this coming season. What that means for players and parents, again, who knows? And that's where I think I get so frustrated with the leadership of our youth system, is that nobody ever knows what they plan on doing the year next. And I get it. Maybe it is for the best. I don't know. But how many times are you going to put these kids through change like this?
Well,
Um,
the problem with that is, to your point, is that they're so used to playing a style of soccer, maybe for the coach that they played for the past 3, 4 years, 5 years, playing with the kids that usually are on the team every year, and now they're being asked to go play with ultimately a younger group of kids, which they will typically be the oldest, or vice versa. They'll be the younger group. And it is very intimidating to some of those players. So I know that I have always, throughout my soccer career, especially at the regional and national level, have realized that if you are not comfortable and confident playing with the players or the coach that you're playing with, whether you're the best player in the country or in the middle of the pack, if you are not comfortable, and I think we could take a lot of our professional soccer players that have played overseas that want to come back home, they must feel comfortable, which brings confidence to their game. And so if they do not feel confident in their game, their coach is going to basically just sit them on the bench. And a couple of our national team players, that's the case that's happened. I mean, Weston McKennie last year, the past couple years, he was in form, lost a little bit of confidence for some reason, and he's been benched for the past 2, 3 years, or ultimately has not played as much. Now he's back in form. He's confident. He's comfortable, and he's stellar right now. So I do think, and I'm just adding to your point there, Jeremy. Yes, I think all of the changes and the uncomfortable environments that we put these young kids in all the time is really hindering kids from continuing to play soccer, first off, and those players being comfortable with the players that they're playing with. And I think ultimately, no, we're not saying that we're just playing for fun, but the game is supposed to be fun. And if you're not having fun, then you're not going to play.
So this, Jeremy, let me chime in real quickly here. So this topic is going to be one that we're going to address through multiple podcast episodes. So let me ask if you have your opinion and make it a short 30-second clip, where do you think the next step is for our youth club systems?
You asking me, Jason, Jeremy? No.
So that's a tough one. I mean, we could go multiple routes. In my honest opinion, there needs to be one system, not multiple systems throughout. Whether that's relegation, whether that's promotion, I don't know. We have to limit the amount of leagues that are going in this country. We have to have a better direction from leadership on what the ultimate goal is. And we also have to give these kids a proper feeling that they can make it as well, and not just focus on the one league that everybody knows are probably going to get the most opportunity. And I get it, those might be the best players, but players are missed, like we talked about earlier. How do we give those kids opportunities as well? Do local clubs say, you know what, we're going to send, we're going to have a not necessarily a tryout, but a training, and we send our 4 or 5 best kids, or you know, multiple kids, to whoever it may be. We'll sit there and look at these kids and say, here's your assessment, here's your opportunity, whatever it may be. But at least you get to see them. And I don't know if that's done enough. And I, you know, it does suck for some of these kids, quite frankly, because I think a lot of them are good enough to get to that next level. I'm sorry, you can't sit here and say that those are the best players on our national team in this country. I'm sure there's better players.
I agree. I think
Uh,
you've seen it with what Posh has done by bringing in some of these MLS players that weren't getting looks initially. So, Jason, over.
Again, I'm going based off my opinion. It's probably gonna not be the voice of reason for a lot of people that listen to this, or maybe sit well with a lot of the, we'll say, presidents of all of the leagues amongst our country. However, the way you look at this, from my opinion, from my standpoint, I should say, is that you have the top tier leagues, which is probably MLS. Then you go into a second tier, which, if that's going to be USL One, which is going to compete with MLS, I guess, you now have feeder teams for those. So we'll say like clubs underneath them. So you'll have the MLS top team, and then you'll have MLS Next, which is their reserve teams or their academy teams. Then you go down to the USL, as I mentioned, and then they have academy teams. And then everything below that is considered club soccer, US youth soccer, or US club soccer, however you want to look at it. And there is a radius of how many teams can be in a specific area, forcing players to play on one team. And that is how players start to get looked at, because now coaches can go and specifically look at one team that they want to look at and know that the best players in that area are on that team. Beyond that,
Yeah,
you'll have teams below that, so you'll start having filters, and you might have 3 top teams for that specific area, but it's under one club or one umbrella. And then you go into the next, whether it's a 30-mile radius or a 40-mile radius, whatever you want to do. But what we have a problem with is that we have so many teams, specifically in Cincinnati and Columbus, that the best players are not in one club, or the best players are not on one team. And so what's happening is all of the coaches are going to watch MLS Next because all the best players are on those teams. So if US Club and US Youth Soccer wants to compete with MLS Next, if that's what they're trying to do, I don't know, you better start making radiuses for the amount of clubs you can have in an area.
All right,
because if you don't,
keep it that.
it is going to be the exact same thing continuing each year.
All right, so
I want to make one more point in regards to the MLS Next. So the whole purpose of that was to have an academy associated with an MLS team. And now we have hundreds that are now in MLS Next and MLS Next 2 that are not associated with an MLS team. So the truth is, and a lot of people might not like to hear this, but those teams are strictly there to subsidize for the MLS Next teams that are associated. They have no business being in that league. That should be MLS academies only, in my opinion. And that's how you start reducing the amount of clubs around, because those teams that are in those given areas that are associated with MLS Next teams, you're going to have the best players in that state,
hands down.
plain and simple.
All right. Well, like I said, more to come on this topic. We're going to address this almost every week or so whenever we have our episodes. So let's move on to the second topic. Let's get right into the overseas versus the MLS player pools. Who's performing well, who's not playing so well, or crap as we would call it, who's been injured, and what things are going to look like here over the next several months. Over to you, Jeremy.
Yeah, so Jason already touched on McKinney a little bit. I'm glad to see he's back in form. He's such a utility player. He can be moved every single position if necessary. It was kind of funny. I think I actually saw that he's only not played center back and goalkeeper for Juventus. He's played every other position.
Yeah. I did not know that, actually.
Yeah.
Every position, huh?
Every position but center back and goalkeeper. Pulisic, he was in such good form. He had 10 plus goals to start the season. It slowed down a bit. I think he's a little aggravating an injury a little bit.
I do too. So I think it's a hip flexor, and that's why he's struggling. Yeah.
But I'll be curious to see if he is full health by the time World Cup starts.
What about for the friendlies? The upcoming friendlies, do you think he'll?
I don't know if you take the chance. I think he's a shoo-in, I would imagine, at full health. So I don't know if you take the chance.
Yeah. What about Dest?
So Dest is going to be. Sorry, Jeremy, I'm not trying to take your thunder.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Dest is. We kind of had a sidebar conversation the other day about Dest, whether he was going to be prepared or not. He's in trouble. I will say that I pray for the guy and I hope that he is back because I do think he's a huge part of this team. But I can say, depending on whether he tore or pulled his hamstring, that's not only just a recovery, but that's also fitness. That's form. Is he going to play with his club anymore? He's not going to have a lot of time after the injury heals to even perform for his club anymore. So if we're going to ask him go to straight into the friendlies and play, I mean that could be a possibility, but you're not going to be able to give him a lot of time right off the bat. So he is basically now rebuilding his fitness from, I would say, the holiday. And so now, is that injury going to prevent him from even getting any kind of fitness or any kind of form? That is the question for Dest. We need him to be at top peak, and if he's not at top peak or 100%, he will be a part of that 28, no doubt. But will he get into 18? I don't know if you risk it. I don't know.
Yeah, carry that conversation on to Jedi Robinson as well. Anthony is not. I mean, he's starting some, but he's lost that full-time starting position, and he's obviously nursing injuries as well, and it could be an impact because you look at some of these MLS guys. Arston is just playing brilliant soccer.
Yep.
Well, I will say that Manchester United and Liverpool are interested in Robinson.
Mm-hmm. Saw that.
And so I don't think he's fallen off that much. They still see high potential at perhaps coming in as left back and starting at left back for both of those clubs. I do think I saw that he prefers to play at Liverpool, which would be a good fit. I mean, that would be pretty much a replacement for Kirkez or for what's Trent Alexander. But it's just a different level when you get over there. And I hope he does well for Liverpool, but just like we see a lot of our national team players, or even some of the top players that get recruited on some of these teams from other clubs throughout the world, they struggle. And I don't know if it's going back to the confidence statement that I made earlier, or the form, or just the style difference. The last thing we want is for him to go to Liverpool and he doesn't play before the World Cup.
Yeah,
and then we're host.
You bring up a good point. Do you think the international coaches are sensitive enough to believe that if we keep some of these U.S. players kind of in the background of our teams, we don't have to worry about them developing to become strong enough to win a World Cup? Over to you, Jeremy.
No, I don't necessarily think that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, those club coaches are expected to win games, and they're going to put the best players on the field possible. I think the problem is being over in Europe. The first scapegoat typically is the American player. If they drop in form, sorry, you're done, kid. And I think that's what happens a lot. I think you see Pulisic, like I said. I mean, maybe he is nursing an injury, but he dropped in form for 2 games. He got benched. After he just provided how many goals for you?
Yeah, the expectation is a little different. I think you're right there, because we're still probably top 20, top 25 teams in the world. I would say probably even, we could even say 15. But I think when you're looking at, from the perspective of our national team compared to England or Spain or Portugal or any of those, or always say France as well. I don't think these coaches necessarily look at our players as being as good as those players. And it's disappointing, but at the same time, I think if we were that good on all of these international teams, I think our national team would do far more well in the World Cup than what we usually do. And I'm not saying we have poor performances in the World Cup, but I think, Jeremy, you have the stat on that. We've only won one game in the past 12 years or something like that?
Group stages.
No. Group stages, we've only won one game, even if we've won the group. So the best we've ever done is 1 win, 2 ties to win the group.
And that's playing, and obviously the World Cup, they're all competitive teams. But I think we have had decent enough groups to where we should be getting more than one win. And that is what worries me a little bit about this national team is, are we really that good? Or are we just good enough to win the group or to get ties in the World Cup? And I think that's what the whole conversation, and probably amongst our international coaches, our youth coaches, what are we doing to make our national team better? Are we really getting closer to the Frances and the Spains and the Portugals, or are we just staying the same and they're not as good as what they used to be? I think that's a big question for us to ask.
It's a combination of both, in my opinion.
I think I
Um,
look at Brazil and I'm like, that team should be stellar. And unfortunately, they're not that great. They're still very, very good, but they're not that great. Belgium, how poor have they done in the World Cup? I mean, that's he's saying embarrassing for them to go out like that when they have such a good team.
yeah, their golden generation was a massive failure for sure.
Definitely.
So it'll be super interesting, especially with Belgium, and we have some good ones under our belt. I will say under Poach. But it'll be interesting to see how we do in the friendly with Belgium because, in my opinion, Belgium is very, very good. They just have not been very successful in the World Cup. So that result, or at least I'll say not even the result, I'll say the performance against Belgium will tell a lot about what kind of players we have for this World Cup.
Yep. Well, you look at the U.S. men's national team, and they have such a stellar performance against Uruguay, right? What a smashing game. Beautiful to watch in every element of the game. There was nothing that our guys didn't do. But why is that only a one-off performance over a 10-game period? And I know Posh is making the changes and he's trying to find a good mix of players. But right now, that's the starting lineup that I would put on the field.
Well, and so you bring up a good point, that performance against Uruguay, and Uruguay's coach, was it Bielsa, basically said that MLS makes players lazy. And that is a little bit of a concern coming from such a high profile coach, because I think what he saw with his team is something different than what he's used to seeing. And a lot of those players do play in the MLS. So for the U.S. to thrash them, and maybe we were just stellar that game and Uruguay had a bad game. But if MLS is making players lazy, and we definitely are pulling from the MLS, is that the performance we're going to get from MLS players?
Right. So Jeremy, over to you real quick, Jeremy. So are we soft and lazy players at the youth level all the way up to the national level?
Well, so I argue the statement that Bielsa make when you've heard from players like Pirlo who say, quite frankly, the MLS, they just run too much.
A good point.
And he's about as high profile of a player that I can think of as a defensive mid. And then you argue the statements that Bielsa makes after a 5-1 thrashing. I think it's this little bit of a salty coach, quite frankly. Now, I'm not saying that it makes them these amazing players by any means, or it takes them to the next level that maybe some other, European club might. But I think we're far from lazy overall. Our national team. I think that we overwork.
So let me ask you this with MLS then. Do you think that he is referring to quickness and combination play overseas compared to more running, more defending in MLS? And that's why he's saying it's lazy, because players don't move off the ball as well. They don't move the ball as quick because they don't have to in MLS?
It'll be a combination of not having to work as hard for the ball or off the ball, I would say, just because of the quality maybe. But I also think it's because of the life they live. They're living a pretty luxurious life here. And so I don't know if that's the way that he's thinking in his head, is that they are now spoiled versus
Yep.
versus players that used to have to fight for everything, and now they're like, well, I'm living the life now. Who cares?
Right. Yep.
Maybe that's what he meant.
Exactly.
Very well could be.
I think
well
that's the combination of being a little bit soft because we're pampered in what we have available to us here in the United States. And
you see it in our kids too, in the youth.
Absolutely. And that's exactly where I was going to go. I mean, you still have seagull parents that do everything that they can to stay on top of not only the player, their kid, but the coach. They need to let go. When we played outside when I was a young kid, there were no parents. We were playing Sandlot American football, and we were trying to rip each other's heads off. And even with you two, it I was able to teach that really to Jason at a very young age, but I let it slip away a little bit with you. And you finally saw it as you got older, and you saw, man, I got to get a little bit harder here. And so I've seen that change in you guys over the years. But I'm still seeing it in the youth players. I'll see kids that just are unwilling to,
Well,
they'll chase a ball going forward, but to chase a ball going backwards, they won't do it.
But I do think that brings playing multiple sports, and I am all for playing multiple sports because it makes a good athlete. But I think at one point, or I should say, at what point do we say maybe multiple sports are not in the best interest of the players if they want to play soccer moving forward? And the reason I say that is because going from, we'll say, basketball or I don't know, track or something like that, and then we come back to soccer after taking 3-4 months off or something like that. Are the kids that are kind of doing the dual sports at the same time already choosing what's more important to them? So if they have a soccer practice on a Wednesday and they have track on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or whatever, or basketball, is soccer really their sport? Or are they waiting for soccer to be over because their other sport is in session?
And it could be fatigue too. I mean, it could be just physical fatigue. But all right, so we need to transition to the next topic, but I want to get you guys, I'm going to put you on the spot. So Jeremy, give me one word for a U.S. youth soccer player. What you think about them? What's their characteristic?
For a U.S. youth soccer player?
Yeah, just one of our youth club players. Yeah, one word.
I wouldn't even know how to answer that because I don't know what you mean.
Well, that's Jason. Do you have one? What one word? Soft.
Smart.
They lack it or they have it?
They're smart.
They are smart?
Smart kids. We'll just say that.
What I would say, Jeremy, back to you.
Man, you really are putting me on the spot.
I meant to put you on the spot.
Dude.
I've got mine. I can tell you what it is, and I've seen it. It's mentally weak. We have no mental toughness.
I got my word. Attention span.
There you go.
But I'm combining the
that's
span
okay.
part of
That's
it.
okay. That's kind of what I meant to say, but yeah, but mentally weak,
yeah.
I think, is across the board. And the one player that I would say on the U.S. team, actually, I'll give you a couple players, but I'm going to give the big nod as we brought Weston McKinney into this. That guy had a break in mental toughness, and he is back. And he's back with a vengeance. And that's just unbelievable. And I'm proud of him. I hope you guys are proud of him. And I look forward to seeing him play in the World Cup. All right. So let's move on to our next topic here. We're going to discuss the upcoming friendlies between Belgium and Portugal. Maybe talk Posh's strategies and tactics a little bit. And which players do you think work best for this particular team, and who's going to really get the opportunity to play? Over to you, Jay.
So, yeah, we kind of dove into this a little bit with Belgium. I think that one is probably the one that I'm most excited for because I enjoy the players that Belgium have. I really think they have a good team. I know we played Germany as well, but Germany is they've struggled, I'd say, the past couple of international events. So I still think they're going to be very good, but the Belgium one is going to be the one that I think I can get a better feel of how he is going to line up, he being the coach, Poach, who he's going to take into that final 18 based on that. I want to say more of a defensive tactic because I think that's more what he's probably going to work at.
I say no way. Do not go defensive.
No, I'm not.
Play
I'm
the
not
game.
I'm not talking about playing defensive. I'm talking about defensive tactics. How is he going to defend against what Belgium has? And that basically, to me, is a 3-5-2 or a 4-5-1 or a 4-3-3, however we're going to line up at the World Cup. Is that formation going to be conducive to teams like Belgium? Because Doku and De Bruyne, I mean, they're killer, right? Those guys there are the ones that are going to make the most magic for that Belgium team. And if we can stop them with the tactics that Poach puts out, I think that you probably have a good formation. And I also think you have probably the backs that you're going to use, either first team or the second group that goes in. Because if they can handle, again, those guys, then they can handle about anybody in.
That's good. Over to you, Jared.
No, I know France definitely has some more firepower than that, but unfortunately,
Portugal's
Portugal or
next,
France.
Yeah.
Portugal or France. So it will be very, very interesting to see what we pull off against
Well,
Belgium.
Portugal's been in pretty good form of late. And Jeremy, what do you think of Belgium and Portugal?
So I'll start off with the Portugal game. So I think that they have a better chance of winning the next World Cup than any other team, in my opinion. Maybe not, maybe Spain. But I think Portugal's improvement has, they are in a different world right now as well.
Play top
y-
teams. They all play on top teams. I mean, all their clubs are top notch teams in the world. So they don't lose a lot of form. We'll just say that.
Yeah, but I heard an interesting quote, and this is not verbatim by any means, but this is from Pochettino. He says that we never say the word friendly because when we say friendly, it means that we play without consequence. And I think that these games, there's a lot of consequence involved, not only for our player pool and starting to dwindle that down, but I think that if we don't build upon the victory that we had against Uruguay and move it into these two very, very tough games, um, what form are we going to have going into the World Cup? You know, we need a run of games
We need to beat
against
European
top
teams.
competitions.
If we can't beat European teams, we're going to be in the same situation. We'll
We
probably
need to beat
struggle
top
and get out
teams,
of the
yes.
group and go into the round of 16 and see you later.
I 100% agree. Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, it all depends on who we have in the pool, and it all depends on who the other teams have in their pool. You know, we're talking like Jason said, De Bruyne in the midfield, Openda, you know, Bakayoko. I mean, all these guys playing at the top clubs, you know, top form. And then on Portugal, you have Vitinha, João Neves, like Rafael Leao. I mean, all these different guys that are just studs on the field.
Yeah, they're out of
And
sight.
so
Man. It's fun to watch them play.
my biggest curiosity is, can our midfield handle it? You win games with your midfield. And if we're,
yeah, I think. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I just think that one of the issues that we struggled with in the World Cup, and Jason and I talk about this all the time, Tyler Adams, Yunus Musa, and Weston McKennie were all thrown out there as our midfield at the last World Cup. They are all too much alike. And if that is the midfield we're going to go with again, or a similar route, we can't expect different than what we had before.
Well, you know,
we have to have that creativity in that midfield, which I think we're still kind of struggling to find, quite frankly. But
well, and I saw, you know, I was hoping Malik Tillman maybe jump in there.
Yeah.
But I read something the other day that said he's just really, really out of form right now. So, you know, I think for a couple friendlies that we did have, he was really, really good. But if he's fallen out of form this close to the World Cup, yeah, he's in the 28, but is he in the final 18? And so you're basically rolling with the same central midfield that you did against the Dutch in the quarterfinals of the last World Cup.
Which ate us up, exposed us big time in the midfield.
Well, Pochettino is a form guy, so
Yep.
I mean, there's opportunities that are there. I mean, if it's MLS guys, and so be it. Just get us some wins.
Yeah. So do you think that they will pull in the European players or overseas players, I should say, versus more MLS again? So how's this team going to be structured, do you think? Are any of the guys that we know are going to make the World Cup going to be there against those Belgium and Portugal?
It'll be a mix. I think it'll be a mix.
You think anybody's going to be excluded other than the injuries?
So the way I'm looking at this player pool, this used to be the January window, and they moved it into March. I don't know if it's just specific because of the World Cup, or if that's the new norm, is it's going to start being in March. It puts a lot of these teams, which some of them are still in it, not all of them, but still in Champions League, and there's only like 8 games left in a lot of these leagues.
It's like they compacted the schedules like crazy.
Well, it's that, and then it's like right when you need your results, and then you're going to take my players away. You know, like Balogun, he's been scoring consistently for Monaco. Do you take him? Do they allow you to go? Like, I don't know.
You got put him in a very, very bad spot. Very, very
Yeah.
bad spot for both sides. I mean, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah,
And
but
you gotta
everybody
think,
knows. Everybody knows this is the international break. The coaches know that to prep for a World Cup. I get it that you want to have those players available for your club season, especially teams that are fighting to make UEFA spots and Europa spots. But this is it. I mean, you've got to
well,
give these guys opportunities to play with their
well, so
group.
I didn't even actually look, and I should have. Maybe they're giving the leagues breaks. I mean, because there is that intercontinental playoffs that's going on. You got to release those people. They're vying for a spot in the World Cup. So it's not just the U.S. problem. It's obviously all the countries'
That's what I'm
problem.
saying. This is a World Cup
Yeah, for
year.
sure, for sure.
You've got to release the players. You have to.
So
Will
I
they? I
mean,
don't know.
maybe there is a league break. I haven't looked, and I probably should have. But I think I agree with Jason that it's going to be a mix. I think MLS just starting. You still bring in some of those guys. You're not only looking for your final spots on the roster, but I think you need to bring in some of the leaders and some of the guys that you know are going to be there.
Well,
Um,
you're trying to fill out your 28. I think right now he probably has his 18 that he's pretty confident is going to be in that pool. I The 28 is where it's a little bit more of a challenge because at any given time you have, I mean, if Dest can't play, if Malik Tillman is out of form, so I'd pull those two out of the 18. Who are the next best two? I think is what he has to figure out.
So let me ask this, Jason. You bring up a
Especially
good
as a
point.
goalkeeper.
Right. You bring up a good point. So give me your 5 on the bubble players who you think ought to get an opportunity to play.
I think probably Roldan, Berhalter. Goalkeeper is the one that I'm really, really not too sure of because I know Freeze is the number one right now.
Do you bring Turner in to give him a shot?
I think Turner's probably number 2. I think he probably is just because he has been to a World Cup. I think that's why they're taking Ream. I mean, Ream might start. We have no idea, but he's been there, so he's not going to be left off the 18, in my opinion.
Too much experience and too much
but
leadership.
You have Klinsmann that's good. You have Zach Steffen that's good. Do you take 3? Yeah, you just have Steffen. He's been to a World Cup, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I could say I haven't heard much about Steffen, I'll be honest. So, I don't know. I think you need to take probably another center back. Who is that? Mark McKinney? I don't know.
I want to shout out Noah Kai Banks. He needs to come home to us.
He does need to come home to us. Absolutely. No, yeah. No, Kai, we want you here. We want you here in the United States. And, he did say he loved being with the guys and how they brought him into the team his last window. And I'm hoping he really does choose the USA. And I think he's a player that will excel with this group. I just think just personality wise.
I think in that case, you look at, again, we're going to go back to comfort. Is he in the United States very often? Does he come over here to do his shopping or see family or anything like that? Or is most everything he does overseas?
Mostly overseas. Yeah.
And so you have to start looking at it from his perspective. Do I want to live in the U.S.? Yes, it's a great country. Obviously it is. But do I have anything over there? Would I just be playing for the national team just because?
Yeah, I get it.
I don't know that is comfortable for him, if we'll say that. I don't know that that's going to bring any kind of confidence to his game.
Yeah. So let me slide it over to Jeremy. What do you think? You have 5 players that you think are on the bubble that are going to get the shot?
Well, I think Adji Mang would be one. He's had some really good form lately in the championship level. I think that Noah Kai Banks, I think that you certainly have to give the kid a shot. These upcoming matches may be the right time to bring him in and let him get a couple starts. If he doesn't enjoy it, he can always switch. He's not cap tied. Zendejas, I haven't really checked up on him in the
playing good. I watched him the other night. Played really well. In the
last
Champions
couple
Cup.
games that he had for the national team, I thought he was pretty good, pretty lively. He will certainly bring some energy. And then I think it's a battle between Johnny Cardoso and what's his name? Who's the other? Tanner Tessman.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a battle between the two of them to get that last DM spot.
But I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm just not. I feel bad, but I'm just not sold on Johnny. He just hasn't played well when he's been in a U.S. kit.
I agree.
Tessman has. I think Tessman's proven himself to be strong, whether he
I
comes off
think
the
they're
bench.
even talking about him starting.
Tessman,
So I don't know
yeah.
that I don't know that he's going to be left off ever.
Yeah, I
I
think
think right now.
Testament.
yeah,
Yeah.
Tessman. Yeah,
I think they have him
I think
as
he's
starting.
in. Yeah, well, he could be.
Whether he does or not. I
but
don't know.
again,
The only reason I'm challenging this is just because Cardoso has been playing a lot with Atletico now. His form is kind of reversed. When we had him this last, matches, I think he got the red card or injured early. I can't remember. I know he got twisted on one of the goals, but I mean, if he's all about form, he's playing well, I guess, is what I'm getting at. So I
but he
think that
hasn't performed. He's been in form before, and he came to the U.S. and he didn't play. I
but
mean,
you
he just
gotta
didn't
bring
play
him in
well.
this pool.
He'll
And
be
then
I would imagine probably the 28.
I don't
well,
know,
I'm
man.
just saying
probably
for these upcoming matches in March, you
Yeah,
gotta bring him in.
yeah. I truly think, and I could be way off basis. I'm not trying to speak for Poach, but I think he's trying to find his next. At least we'll say 5. When you get below 25, I think you're looking at probably not having a realistic shot to get on the 18. But I think at least at 25, I think you can roster. How many can you roster?
26.
No, roster on the bench.
18.
I thought it was like 19.
No, I thought it was
19
22.
or 20.
Yeah, that's 22.
I thought they raised it.
Yeah, I think it's 22.
But only 18 can play, obviously. So I truly think he's probably looking for the next 2 to 5 players that, if I had to put them in the game, statistically and form wise, are they going to be able to provide as much as what somebody else does?
All right, so we're sliding down here in the last couple moments. Let me ask this, Jeremy, give me your projected 11 for the game against Belgium.
And this is just me going purely on that they're bringing everybody back in.
Start in the back.
So I'll start in the back. So Freese will start as goalkeeper, and then we'll have, if we're going the 3-5-2 route, we will have Freeman, Mark McKenzie, and Chris Richards. On the left, it will be Arston.
Not Jedi.
He hasn't played enough.
Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
On the right, Tim Weah. In the midfield, it will be McKinney, Adams, and Pooley. And then I'm going to say Pepe and Balogun up top.
It's a
So
good
you think
line.
they'll go in the 3-5-2, huh?
I think you got to try it. I think that Pulisic gives you a little bit of that creativity there in the middle. If you don't, you go the 4-3-3. I could see McKinney playing on the wing. I know I saw some projections that actually had him as a winger because he's been playing forward for Juventus, so they're just going to push him out wide.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, let's shift it over to Jay.
I am going to defer to next week's conversation because I need to sit down and look at what I think is going to be in the pool and build it off of that, because I'm not sure if we're going to play a 3-5-2, just because I think we lack a little bit of speed. So I want to look at it, and that'll be I promise you that I'll give it to you next week.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go way out of a limb here. I want to go 3-4-3, and I want Balogun in the middle, Epi and Haji Wright on the flanks, Pulisic sitting behind them, and then the other guys that you just talked about. I think probably Ream's going to get the start against Belgium, because he knows that European style of game. Other than that,
let me interject real quick. Sorry.
Yeah.
So the front three, the only reason I say there's probably no chance is because you're left with no subs for those 3.
Well, I disagree, because you've got Tillman that can slide in for Pulisic. Pulisic can go up top.
Yeah, Luna as well.
I think you've got Luna who can play those positions. I think we're okay.
But you don't have a point.
And you've got Ajimang there as well, because I love Ajimang.
You just don't take out one of them.
Yeah.
But you can't take 6 forwards because it doesn't leave you any room for anybody else.
Well, I get it, but
we need midfielders.
And I think
midfielders.
Yeah, I think Schulte will get the shot against Portugal. I think that's the way it'll be. I think Freeze will get the Belgium game, and Schulte will get Portugal, or vice versa. I think one of those.
Yeah, I think they'll probably trade off. I would imagine. Yeah. I think.
Well, you got to see him, right? I know you want to keep Freeze in all the time and keep him in best of form. But if things break down, you don't want him eating a bunch of goals either.
Is Belgium game first?
Belgium first.
So I do think, at least for a half, Poach is probably going to play who he thinks is going to be
The starting team.
the starting team.
Yeah. That's cool.
Because I still think that that's far enough away. If somebody twists an ankle or something like that, they could potentially be okay for the World Cup. I think when you start dipping into the later exhibitions, you're going to see less and less of the players that he know are super in.
Gotcha. All right.
It's not
So
exhibitions. It has no consequence.
that's
You
right.
said friendly. I said exhibition.
Yeah. There you go. So hey, let's wind this up. Any final thoughts before we go on? Because we'll start talking about next week's podcast. We'll probably begin our debate over the final 26 World Cup roster as we talk more about youth soccer and again these upcoming friendlies and even more. So Jeremy, over to you. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to these games. I'm really looking forward to seeing the roster sent out so we can kind of base our predictions on starting lineups, which I would imagine would come out in the next week or so.
Yeah, sounds good.
But loving the matchups. I think that we got some really, really quality teams that we're playing against, so that'll be a good judgment of character for our players.
Sounds good.
So
Jason?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in here. I know we have some kinks to work through here as this is our first episode, but moving forward, we really, really want to have good engagement and good chats about how we can possibly fix U.S. soccer. You know, a lot of you out there have great ideas that nobody listens to, and I could say we're here to listen and to get those ideas out if you want to present them. So I'm looking forward to all of these podcast episodes. We're here for you as much as you're here for us. So thank you again for tuning in.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Jeremy. Great conversation, and look forward to the next episode coming to a podcast near you. Take us out, Jeremy.
We out.